Hey there guys, I'm SonicGhost and welcome back to some more Let's Play Splatoon. Last time around, we made our way through World 2 here via the Inkling Boy Amiibo challenges. And today, we're back at the Amiibo box to scan in our Inkling Boy Amiibo once more to tackle World 3. Heyo! What's crackin', playa? Not much, just ready to jump into World 3, starting off with level 10 here. Ink Rail Skyscape, walking a fine line. So this level here, Ink Rail Skyscrape. This level is an interesting one, as we have a lot of ink rails everywhere here in this said level. And because of that, there's not going to be that many opportunities for us to be attacking enemies. Instead, we're going to be traveling around quite a lot here using these said ink rails. But that doesn't mean there aren't going to be moments where there's combat involved. And in those moments, you got to be ready to strike. In this case, I'm going to roll these guys over because it'll be funny. I love rolling enemies over. It's so satisfying to do in Splatoon. Go ahead and hit ourselves a checkpoint and make our way over to the center area here and immediately surprise this guy from up above. Same for your friend. By doing that, we got ourselves a launch pad, so let's get out of here. Next section, activate this ink rail, hang up the wall a little bit, and now we can kind of climb up, and as you can see, we didn't fully ink enough of it, so we have to jump and then fling again. Not the most ideal situation, but this is what happens when we're using a weapon that doesn't have the best range in the world. This is just a limitation of rollers that we have to deal with, although it wasn't a limitation for that long for the said class, as with Splatoon 2, they added vertical flicking to the said weapon class, which gave the rollers more range, but the vertical flick did take longer to come out, especially for certain roller classes. Cough, cough, Dynamo Roller. Dynamos basically can never do the vertical flick because they're so slow using that said mechanic that you're better off at that point just attacking using the horizontal no matter what. So unfortunate that essentially adding a brand new mechanic to the set rollers made one weapon class harder to use, which was very unfortunate, but it can't help that kind of trade-off, and it did kind of nerf the weapon a bit, so it probably accomplished one thing that Nintendo was trying to do with the weapon, and make it a little more balanced going into the next game, but unfortunately, they over-nerfed the said weapon, and it became much harder to use, which is a whole other problem. But with that all said, we're at the end of the Ink Rail Skyscrape, so let's grab our Zapfish and get out of here. So before we move on from Ink Rail Skyscrape, I want to talk about a very big sequence break you can do in the very beginning of the level here. Using the enemy's projectiles, you can get pushed all the way onto this platform that looks like you can't stand on it, but you can. And once you're onto this little platform, you can use a bomb to activate the ink rail right next to the final checkpoint and skip a good 90% of this level. That was a really hard little skip to do, but if you manage to pull it off, this level can be completed in record time. So anytime you watch a Splatoon speedrun of the Octo Valley levels, you'll see that skip implemented, making Ink Rail Skyscrape a very fast level to beat. For completing the Ink Rail Skyscrape, we get ourselves 1,200 gold, which is a nice chunk of change. Now let's go ahead and move on to our next level here. Ink Visible Avenues. Find your path. Ink Visible Avenues. This level I remember a lot of people talking about back when this game was making the rounds in 2015. This is one of the harder levels from Splatoon 1 due to the fact that a lot of the terrain around you here is invisible, and the way to reveal those said invisible areas is to just paint around the said locations here to reveal invisible floors and even invisible walls that you can go ahead and climb up. Your ink isn't the only thing that can reveal all the said invisible stuff, as enemies can also reveal the invisible floor and walls that you can go ahead and climb on. And if you know where to go already, that makes this level easier as well. So this level isn't as bad on repeat playthroughs, but on your first playthrough, this can be a pretty difficult level. But I do like the idea of a level like this being in Splatoon, because it gives you another reason to turf more the area around you here, as it will reward you for being curious that if this area might look suspicious, it's because it probably is. And in fact, the devs definitely agree with the said mindset, as this level gimmick returned for Splatoon 2 single player as well. So it's not a one and done thing. They used this kind of mechanic in the sequel as well. But I didn't have as many problems as other people did when playing this level for the first time back in 2015, but that's because as soon as I knew the level gimmick, I was being very patient here and painting every single corner until I knew where all the invisible platforms were, and then I started to traverse. And after time, you start to learn where things are, and even if you die, you keep this said knowledge, so this way, it makes the level a lot more bearable to traverse in. So the big key to this level is patience. You don't want to rush it, you want to take things slow and methodical. Rushing in head first, you'll probably walk off a cliff and die, because lo and behold, there's no platform there. And now you just walked right off. So be very careful, don't rush things, take your time, and try to ink everything around you that looks suspicious, because if it looks suspicious, it probably is. I'm gonna throw a splat bomb here just to distract this guy a little bit. Now we're gonna ink him and take him out. Go ahead and do the same with these guys here on this platform. And at this point, I won't be able to take all these enemies out at once, so I'm gonna distract them with a bomb, and then just go ahead and fling the other two. Here, gonna have to do the same thing, distract them, and use my flings to take out these Octo Troopers here from a distance. And with that, that is Ink Visible Avenues now completed with our Hero Roller. For completing Ink Visible Avenues, get yourself 1,300 gold, which is a nice chunk of change. But now it's time for us to move on to Flutter Junkyard, Renegade Robots. So the Flutter Junkyard, technically our first Flutter level, but it's our second because of how we're playing this due to the Amiibo challenges. The Flutters here, as we learned with the Hero Charger, they move in a set path, but you can look down on the Wii U gamepad here, and you can see where the Flutters are moving, along with where hidden things are like enemies and even keys. So, I seen on my gamepad, there's a key here on my left, so I'm gonna go immediately over to my said left, grab the key, and now we can move on to our next section here. Unlock this vault, take our launch pad, and that'll take us straight to a checkpoint. Gonna go ahead and pop open this balloon, get ourselves some extra eggs, even though we don't need them at this point. It just feels good to have the number go up in my own head. Go ahead and make my way over to the left here, activate this ink rail, and from here, I'm gonna just jump and try to activate the ink rail down below, so we can go down here, grab this box, which would have been a sunken scroll normally, but now it's just some eggs. I don't need them, but I just wanted to get them just to prove I can. Go ahead and make our way over to our next section here, which will bring us over to a checkpoint. And from here, we want to go ahead and continue forward. Got an enemy here, gotta be very careful not to get destroyed by him immediately. Grab ourselves some armor, break these boxes, and now we can fall down below. Down here, we see ourselves a vault, so we need to get ourselves a key. So let's go up this ramp, and going this way, we got ourselves another checkpoint. And past the set checkpoint here, got ourselves some enemies. Take them out, and at this point, we're trying to see if we can find the key, and sure enough, there it is in a box. So grab the key, and now we can head back over to the said vault here. So unlock the vault, and that reveals a propeller. So we can ride this all the way to the top, and now we're here, right next to the launch pad, taking us into our final major section here of the level. We got ourselves a lot of things going on here with these Flutters. I'm gonna wait for this one to pass as he's right in my way, so it wouldn't be ideal to jump up there at this point. That'd be a problem. You want to go ahead and be very careful. Pay attention to where things are between both your own surroundings and also using the said gamepad, as we can see stuff here in front of us, but we can see a little dot moving around as well. that said dot we want to intercept because that is an enemy. By intercepting this said enemy, we can go ahead and kill him, grab ourselves a key. And with this key, now we can go ahead and beat this said stage. So I'm gonna bait out the flutter here, bait out another flutter in front of us, and now we can go straight over to the said ending. Although one flutter definitely tried to stay in our path, just trying to block it. Didn't really matter, as we were able to get through with no problems. So here is our final section, but before we go any further, we can fall down below here to break open these boxes, which gets us a lot of eggs. If you want any extra power eggs, there they are. Don't need them, I just wanted to grab them. So that is the Flutter Junkyard completed with the Hero Roller. So, just like Inkrail Skyscrape, Flutter Junkyard also has a pretty significant skip to it that you can perform to save yourself a lot of time when playing this level. Something you'll definitely see a lot of times whenever you're watching a Octo Valley speedrun of the first Splatoon game. And the skip doesn't happen until we get to our second checkpoint. So, you play everything here as normal, but do keep in mind that you don't have to go up the ramps when you see going into a flutter section like we're in now. You can also paint around the walls and climb those said parts of the wall to also climb up to where the flutters are. But here we are at the second checkpoint. This is where we'll be performing yet another skip. So I'm going to break these two boxes here and get rid of the enemies so not in our way. But at this point now, we're going to try to slope jump our way up to the very top of this railing. It can be a little precise as the angle you need to get from the side of the metal grating can be a little precise, but if you angle yourself just right and jump off the right part of the metal grating, you can jump up to the top of this wall, which you're not supposed to be able to stand on, and go into your squid form to bypass the fence, skipping that whole section around the second checkpoint area where you need to find a key. Then from here, you just proceed as normal to beat the stage. Now I will say, these speedrun tricks I'm showing off here in these specific levels are not the easiest tricks to perform. The enemy projectile trick, for example, that we performed back in the Inkrail Skyscrape level, that alone was really difficult because it's a lot of randomness to it. And this trick we showed here in the Flutter Junkyard also is pretty difficult, not as random, and it is easier the more you practice it, but it is still a pretty hard trick. But if you do manage to pull it off, you do save yourself a good chunk of time here in the Flutter Junkyard. For completing the Flutter Junkyard, you get yourself 1,400 gold, a good chunk of change. But now let's go ahead and move on to the boss here of World 3 as we're now done with all the levels here. Roll with the punches, the rampaging Octowhirl. A rematch against the Octowhirl, this time using the Hero Roller. This is going to make things actually easier this time compared to our Hero Charger, as the Hero Roller does a great job at turfing. So I'm going to paint up as much of the floor here as possible with a roller, let the guy get stuck, and now we can get up close and personal and flick this guy to death immediately. As you can see with how far away the tentacle is compared to where the said head of the enemy lands, there's no way you're going to be able to get on top of him and roll over the tentacle. So just use your flicks. Same for bombs. There's no way a bomb's going to do anything to that said tentacle. So let's just, at this point, focus on turfing the area around us here. We can either flick around or we can use the roller itself and roll on the ground to do the same thing. It's good to do a combination of both things here with the roller, as both are good to turf around you as fast as possible. Flicking may cover more area at once, but after a while, rolling may be your better solution for getting very specific nooks and crannies. But that is phase 2 of this boss done. Now it's time for the third and final phase, where it cracks apart the floor, and certain parts now are uninkable. Now we gotta deal with moving platforms and uninkable ones at that. So, just like before, let's turf up as much of the ground as we possibly can here. Hopefully this should be enough for him to get stuck. Unfortunately, he ignored most of it, so the answer is no. And that is something you have to deal with here in this boss fight from time to time. So, I don't think this one's gonna work. We're gonna try it. If he gets stuck here, I'd be surprised. I am very surprised. That was not enough ink, in my opinion. The last one had more ink, but sure, that structure works too. Playing it one more time, and that is the Octo World defeated. Really want to know how that second set of ground counted as enough paint for him to get stuck in, but you know what? We take those. That is the rampaging Octo World defeated using the Hero Roller. For defeating the Octo World with the Hero Roller, you get yourself the Samurai Shoes, with special duration up as its main ability. A cool looking piece of footwear if you ask me. But that is it for World 3 here via the Inkling Boy Amiibo. Now we're ready to move on to our next set of levels here in World 4, which we'll be doing in the next episode. Next time on Let's Play Splatoon, we'll make our way through the World 4 levels here in the Inkling Boy challenges. Thank you guys for watching. I hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you guys next time.